following is a production of Cary TV, the Town of Cary's government access channel.
Call to order the March 10th meeting of the Cary Town Council. And at this time, I'll recognize Councilmember Bush for our ceremonial opening.
I do have something to say. That's what I get for spending time. Well, March is Women's History Month, and whenever there's a women event, you know that I'm going to say something about it just because I can. I don't know if you're aware, but it wasn't until 1972, I believe, that Title IX came about, which actually forced federal government funding to go, the same amount of funding to go towards women's sports that were going for men's sports. And now that I'll look at the rest of my notes, it wasn't until 1900 that married women were allowed to keep their own wages and own property in their own name. And before the Pregnancy Discrimination Act of 1978, women could be fired if they were pregnant. And today, more than 30% of all businesses are owned and operated by women. Women's History Month started actually in 1987, or it became a month-long celebration in 1987. It was originally started by President Carter in 1980. He only did a week, but in 1987 we decided that women deserved a whole month. So thank goodness for that. Women across the country have seen discrimination, hardship, strived and sacrificed for equality in all of our communities, whether it was women and Native American women who were shepherding and taking care of the land, to Black women fighting to end slavery, to the suffragists that we know and love who worked to pass the 19th Amendment, finally granting all of us women, the right to vote. Women have been there. The women here on this council, we stand on the shoulders of the women who did all of this work for us. My goal, and for many of you probably in the audience and the 5 people on Facebook Live who are probably watching, our goal is to carry that on, is to ensure that our daughters have the same opportunities as our sons. And then they get equal pay for equal work. They have a safe and secure environment that they feel safe in their homes and in their communities. And if this is just the tip of an iceberg of information, you can go to learn more about women in North Carolina by going to the North Carolina Museum of History, Women's History Month, or by going to womenshistorymonth.gov. And so please celebrate the women in your life and thank them for everything that they have done. I definitely am thankful for the other women and men on council, but you all make me proud every day. So with that, I ask you to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Sorry about that. I rushed. rushed in here.
All right, what a great opening. Okay, the first order of business is to adopt the agenda. The applicant for 20 REZ12 Macedonia Place rezoning has requested council delay action on this item. It will return at a future date. Is there a motion to adopt the amended agenda?
So moved. Second.
There's a motion and a second. Discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We now move to recognitions, reports, and presentations. And our first presentation is from the Citizens Assisting Police Team, or the CAP team. And I'll invite their representatives to meet me at the podium.
Mayor.
Big check store.
Well, Mayor Weinbeck and distinguished council members, thank you for giving us the opportunity to be here tonight. It's been a while, actually 2 years, since we've been able to do this annual presentation. This year is going to be a little different. We've combined 2 years, years 2020 and 2021.
Bigger check.
Bigger check is right. So as you can see, it's called out on the check, and that gives us a grand 2-year total of 6,434 hours, which is a lot of hours that we've contributed to the police department and the town of Cary through lazy days and spring days and various other events that you've held. Denise and myself are honored to be here as representatives of the CAP team who are seated up in the audience here. We have some of them with us here tonight. So I'd like to present this check for $160,000, $964.36.
Just so you know it's real. On behalf of the council and the town of Cary, I want to thank you so much. You guys provide an invaluable service to our community. A lot of people might look at this as, hey, you help with child safety seats or you promote community watch. You're much more than that. You're a reflection of all that is great in this town. You promote this town. You are all great ambassadors. And we're so fortunate and so blessed to have you in our town. Thank you. God bless you. And continue to do the great work you're doing.
Thank you very much.
Take care. We have such a great group of CAP team members. They're almost one-to-one with the police officers, I think. Is that right, Ms.? Yep. Thank you again. Let's see, our second item under reports and recognitions is the town manager's update. Mr. Stiegel.
Thank you, Mayor. Council, earlier this week, our community suffered a terrible apartment fire. This 3-alarm fire involved 111 responders and 47 vehicles from fire, police, and EMS, not only from Cary, but also Apex, Morrisville, and Swift Creek. Our firefighters heroically rescued 4 people from the burning building, but tragically there was one victim they could not save. A 9-month-old baby girl found in the arms of her mother, who was critically injured doing everything she could to save her daughter's life. It's been more than 20 years since a person died in a structure fire in Cary, so this is a particularly difficult time for those involved. And I want them to know how proud we all are of them, especially as what happened undoubtedly plays over and over again in their mind. I know I speak on behalf of everyone in the room that we feel a tremendous sense of gratitude to those who choose the profession of police and fire. When the rest of us are running away from the danger, they are running into it, risking their own lives to do what they can do to help protect us. I hope all of us will keep the fire's victims and first responders in our thoughts in the days to come. That concludes my report, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Stiegel. That was a sad day, and we will keep them in our thoughts and prayers. Okay, we now move to our next item. It is Public Speaks Out. We've included instructions for speaking at this forum online and on the printed agenda. There were 3 opportunities for you to speak at Public Speaks Out through written comments, calling in, or attending here in person tonight. And if you are here in person and would like to speak, I would ask that you take a seat in the rows to my right that are shown as reserved. Keep in mind that Public Speaks Out speakers have 3 minutes each for their comments, and speakers may speak on any topic as long as it's not a public hearing, and that works to your benefit because you get more time at a public hearing. The 3-minute time limit will be enforced, not to be rude, but to be fair to all of our speakers. There's a timer on the podium. It'll start off with a green light. When it turns to a yellow light, that means you have 30 seconds remaining. And when it starts flashing red, that's the moment I'll interrupt you again, not trying to be rude, but trying to be fair to all of our speakers. I thank everyone in the audience for understanding that this is a business meeting. Please do not applaud, make remarks from your seats, or anything else that may distract from this meeting. So now's the time for Public Speaks Out. There were no written comments, no call-in speakers, so I'll call on our first speaker that's here in the audience at this time.
Hi there, I'm Lee Williams with Towards Zero Waste. It is so good to see all of you this evening and be here not to make a request, but to say thank you. As you probably know, Megan Holler and I, on behalf of Towards Zero Waste Cary, have had the pleasure of working with town staff led by Shrishna Guilford and assisted by Sarah Justice, who has been promoting and teaching backyard composting in Cary for years. We've been working on the food waste drop-off pilot, and this has been going on for about the past year. It has culminated with the opening of a lovely installation at the Dixon Convenience Center just over a month ago. Staff at Dixon have been integral in the smooth running of the drop-off. There's been very little contamination, and any initial hiccups, as one would expect in the early days of an innovative pilot, have been quickly resolved. We are so grateful to have been invited to partner with the town on this project. Council and staff clearly recognize the issues related to food waste and are taking critical steps to amend these, to get rid of these problems. We want to thank you for your willingness to try the drop-off, something that no other town in our area has done. We want to also thank you for your willingness to dig into waste, as few other municipalities have done. We know from a study that you funded in 2019 that food waste makes up 27% of what Cary residents send to Wake County's landfill, a landfill that is projected to hit capacity by 2040. It is with those facts in mind that citizens asked for more options for food waste, and the response has been overwhelmingly positive. In the first 3 weeks alone, citizens have dropped off over 1,800 pounds of food waste, diverting nearly a ton of compostable material from the landfill, preventing the release of methane, and turning what would have been wasted into a nutrient-dense soil amendment that can help repair damaged land, and in turn solving some of the issues that degraded soils present, especially in rapidly growing areas. I will add that Monday's collection was a staggering 531 pounds collected just over the weekend. We have had an opportunity to educate and engage with citizens both at the drop-off and through a webinar last week that had about 50 attendees, many of whom hadn't even been to the drop-off yet. We have been thrilled by the overwhelming enthusiasm and heartened to see that so many in our community also understand the issues related to food waste and are eager and willing to do something about it. Because of our time at the drop-off, we've been the happy recipients of a lot of gratitude and praise that belongs to you, to Shrishna, and to the rest of the staff. It was during one of my initial visits that a newcomer to Cary exclaimed, "When I saw this announcement, I thought, the town of Cary is just so responsive. When I moved here, I called to ask them about composting, and I was told, we don't have that. I suggested they should offer it, and in no time, here it is." Again, thank you for support of this valuable project. We look forward to continuing to partner to find solutions to the issue of food waste and waste of all kinds in our community.
Thank you.
And Ms. Williams, we appreciate you coming here tonight to thank us, but it's us who should be saying thank you to you.
Seriously.
Yeah,
Yeah, thank you.
Amen.
Anyone else to speak at Public Speaks Out? Seeing no one, will close Public Speaks Out. We have no items on the consent agenda. In all my years, I've never seen that before.
I have not either. Have you, Jack?
Mr. Smith, you've been here since the founders founded Cary.
I remember when we started using paper, and I just don't remember.
All right, so we'll move right into public hearings. And our first same rules apply for public hearings that apply for public speaks out, with one exception, and that is the time. You now have 5 minutes for time to speak. Our first public hearing is item 5.1, or 21 REZ 21, the Fenton rezoning. And the Chief Development Officer, Scott Berry, will introduce the item. Council will not take action on this item tonight, but it will be referred to our Planning and Zoning Board for their review and their recommendation, and will return to us at a future date. Mr. Berry.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm pleased to be up here tonight with Rob Wilson regarding these requested tweaks to the Fenton zoning. I'll provide some background to the project and then turn it over to Rob, who'll cover the details of the request. Fenton's history is tied to the Imagine Cary Community Plan, specifically the Eastern Cary Gateway Special Planning Area. The vision outlined in these documents helped Columbia Development shape the rezoning proposal that was approved in January of 2018. Fenton became Cary's largest and most complex development. The approved zoning includes over 100 conditions, a design guidebook which defines architectural, hardscape, and landscape commitments. One of these zoning conditions required that a development agreement be approved by the council before development could occur. In the spring of 2020, the developer received plan approval for phase 1 of the project, including over 1 million square feet of floor area. That summer, council approved changes to the original zoning and revisions to the development agreement to facilitate the project's construction loan. And we're here tonight as the developer is proposing additional modifications to the existing zoning, mostly related to the large retail area in the front of the project, as well as additional signage opportunities. As we've been discussing in our quarterly meetings, Fenton is continuing to make exciting progress towards an opening in late spring of 2020. And at this time, I'll turn it over to Rob to provide details about the rezoning request and discuss how it fits within the framework of the Imagine Cary Community Plan.
Thank you, Scott. Good evening, Mayor and Council. It's great to be here tonight.
Good to see you again, Rob.
Thanks. Fenton's request includes proposed changes in 3 areas: the creation of a second development option for the anchor tenant area, providing additional flexibility regarding signage, and minor revisions to Fenton's preliminary development plan and design guidebook. Under the current preliminary development plan, the developer may place a large commercial anchor tenant around 100,000 square feet in the area in the yellow circle in the southern portion of the site. Zooming in on this area, the developer has proposed a second option that could potentially be used for a smaller anchor tenant. The yellow circle on the right highlights the smaller Pod 2, which includes the option for a pharmacy drive-through on the southern side of the pod. Under this scenario, Pod 8 would be relocated and reconfigured. This revised placement would allow the introduction of Pod 35, a vertically integrated building with a minimum of 4 stories and a maximum of 14 stories. To adequately park this building, a new parking deck, D9, is included. Finally, this alternative design would extend the main street and create the option for a new retail jewel box identified as Pod 36. The second area of proposed changes involves additional flexibility regarding signage. Fenton's approved design guidebook breaks the development into 2 different tiers for regulating signage. Tier 1, which encompasses the main street and the core of the development, is shown with a peach color. This area has the greatest degree of flexibility. Tier 2, shown in yellow, encompasses the rest of the development, offers a more modest degree of flexibility, and thus is more closely aligned with Cary's sign requirements. As part of this request, the boundary of the Tier 1 area has been updated. In the Tier 1 area, the original zoning did not regulate sign color or lighting. This request seeks to fully exempt ground floor retail signs in Tier 1 from regulation and permitting, treating these tenants similar to an indoor mall. The developer is also asking that signs for upper floor tenants located in Tier 1 be exempt from logo size requirements. The LDO currently restricts logos to 20% of the sign area. The developer seeks adjustments to provide additional signage flexibility for pods 5 and 27. These are located at the intersection of Trinity Road and Fenton Gateway Drive. Requested changes for these pods also include increased logo flexibility and the ability to determine sign area by individual building facade. Fenton has built an elevator structure, which they are calling the Beacon Tower, located between Building 6 and Deck D1, which is the existing tabletop deck on Trinity Road. The developer is requesting the ability to place a logo on the 4 sides of the top of the Beacon Tower. Each logo would be limited to a maximum size of 7 feet by 7 feet. The developer wants to use a sculpture to identify the entrances into the development. Because the sculpture incorporates a dimensional logo, it is a sign as defined by the Land Development Ordinance. There are 3 locations where these signs are being requested, as shown on the vicinity map here. The proposed monument signs would be similar to the structure depicted in this rendering and would not exceed 7 feet in width, 7 feet in length, or 30 feet in height. A smaller version of the structure is proposed to be allowed in the roundabout on Quinard Road in the northwest corner of the site. The developer included a column in the middle of the tabletop deck's facade to break it into smaller segments. In order to add a focal point and provide a cap for this column, the developer is requesting to place a dimensional wall sign on top. This sign would consist of a dimensional logo substantially similar to what you see here. The logo would be limited to a maximum of 7 feet in length, width, and height. The developer seeks flexibility for 3 of the parking decks, which are shown here with blue stars, for them to be considered as part of the adjacent building pods for signage purposes. This request would allow up to 1 wall sign per facade on these decks. There currently is not a maximum height or display area for the proposed signs on these parking decks. Staff understands that the developer is working on additional language to clarify the maximum size of these signs. The developer is requesting the ability to install a roof sign on the eastern side of Pod 2, which would face Deck D1 and Trinity Road. The existing zoning allows for up to 3 roof signs in the core Tier 1 area that can be up to 15 feet in height. One of these signs, shown here on the right, has already been installed and is just over 6 feet tall. This requested roof sign for Pod 2, which is in the Tier 2 sign area, would be limited to a maximum height of 10 feet. The content of this sign cannot be regulated, and currently no maximum length or display area has been offered. Finally, the developer has requested several minor changes to the preliminary development plan and design guidebook. These include clarifying that the 22-foot minimum height for 1-story buildings does not apply to the retail jewel boxes, allowing medical office uses wherever commercial and office uses are permitted in the development, organizing and better categorizing modifications to the LDO, clarifying public art locations, and increasing the height of Pod 3, which is located in the southwest corner of the site by Carytown Boulevard, increasing it from 2 to 4 stories and allowing office as a use in this pod. The community plan analysis for the original zoning in 2018 and the analysis for the 2020 rezoning revealed consistency with multiple policies in 6 chapters of the community plan. Given that most of the zoning proposal remains the same, we believe the proposal continues to demonstrate consistency with these policies. These analyses are attached to your staff report. Since Fenton's 2020 rezoning, we have begun also evaluating our rezonings with the Serve chapter of the community plan. With 30% of the site preserved as open space, a vertically integrated mix of uses that will reduce vehicular trips, a commitment to construct energy-efficient office space that is in the top 25% of the EPA's Energy Star rating system, the provision of electric vehicle charging stations, the use of LED lighting, and the planting of approximately 950 trees as part of Phase 1 of the project, our analysis indicates that Fenton demonstrates consistency with 4 policies in the Serve chapter. Staff facilitated a virtual neighborhood meeting on January the 12th. 5 citizens attended and inquired about the identity of the grocery store tenant, the ability for adjacent neighbors to walk to the site, and the nature of the buffer between Fenton and its western neighbors. At this time, we have not received any calls or emails from citizens regarding the proposal. Property owners within 800 feet of the site were notified of this proposal and informed of their opportunity to speak at tonight's public hearing. This notification exceeds both state and Cary's LDO notification requirements. This concludes staff's presentation. At this time, I'd like to introduce Russell Killen of Parker Poe, who will give the applicant's presentation. Following the applicant's comments in the public hearing, I'll be available for your questions.
Thank you, Rob, and good evening, everybody. It is good to be here in person and good to see you. I was looking at those dates and remembering it was 2016 when we started working with town staff on that, and that is hard to believe, but it's great to see it coming out of the ground, and it's really exciting to see that shared vision that took so long to form actually becoming a reality, and I know y'all are excited about it too. Tonight with me, I have Abbott Goodwin and Paul Zarian. They're here as well. If y'all have any hard questions, I'll defer them to them. But as usual, staff has done a really good job. They've made a thorough presentation. I do want to extend special thanks to Rob. He has worked tirelessly with us and working through all of the minutia and the details on this, and really did a good job of keeping everybody straight on this and making sure everything was covered. So I appreciate that. Again, from our perspective, these are tweaks that are important to make this already great thing really, again, reach that shared vision we've talked about. We're excited about it. We don't think there's anything revolutionary here. We are happy to take any questions you have, but I do not have a separate presentation. But if you have questions, I would be more than happy to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Killen. We'll probably have questions when we get finished with the public hearing.
Okay.
So stand by.
All right.
So now is the time for the public hearing, 21 REZ 21, the Fenton rezoning. My understanding, there were no written comments, no call-in speakers. So we'll start opening the floor to those who were in attendance that would like to speak at this public hearing. And I would invite the first speaker forward. Anyone to speak at this public hearing? Seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing and open it up to council members for questions and comments.
I have
Ms.
a
Robinson.
question. I'll start off. Can you tell us, we know that the Wegmans was 100,000 square feet. The new parcel 2, what is the square footage of that? And would we anticipate all of that being under a roof?
There isn't a condition to the exact size included in the preliminary development plan, but scale-wise, it appears to be in the vicinity of probably 40 to 50,000 square feet.
Okay, so basically 1 acre under a roof.
Mm-hmm.
An acre's 43,000,
8 something, yeah.
560, something like that.
43,560 square feet.
Yeah, okay. All right, so basically an acre under a roof, so.
Yeah, it's probably, somewhere in that 35 to 45,000 range. But again, there's not an exact number,
Okay,
so it could be a give or take 5 or 10,000 square feet.
okay, all righty. I think, I'll just make a comment now. I think one of the challenges that we have when we sit at a table like this is that we try to think of everything and then we realize after the fact that we miss things. And I would say that we feel like at the table that we missed the fact that the Wegmans roof was going to be so huge. It was going to be such a large surface area that's basically just dead space, that's not that productive and it's not attractive. It doesn't do anything for the environment. Now we're getting a lot of requests to lower our standards over what we've already agreed to. Yeah, I kind of feel like this is like death by 1,000 cuts. And Laura, you and I have discussed this before, that you approve something and you have this grand vision of it, and then there's like little bit, changes what the project will be like. And I do need, before I can make full comments, I need to sit down with our staff and really understand what these modifications are. But one thing that we did miss the first time, since we are giving in, allowing these changes to happen, I would like to see the developer come back and correct a mistake that everybody missed the first time, and that is either activating that rooftop or making it a green rooftop. Because you wouldn't take an acre of land and put asphalt down on it and then leave it and not do anything with it. And that's effectively what's happening here with this grocery store having just a plain roof. And if we're going to approve up to a 14-story building, that means that people are going to be looking down at it, and it's not going to be attractive. We care so much about the view shed in Cary, what things look like. we have to start thinking about what Cary looks like from a tall building, because we're having tall buildings come into Cary. So this is something that I think is important, that should be considered, and I'd love for the applicant to put some consideration into that. So,
Yeah, go ahead.
I would love to see that. It would be like a signature feature for this site. And Fenton would, already is getting a lot of attention, but having that feature would just make the project so much better.
Yeah, I was going to weigh in with the exact same thing. We try not to duplicate each other's thoughts. This came up to me when I was lucky enough to get a tour of the Fenton, and when we were up high, and I like to thank Abbott for a great tour, I saw the sea of asphalt where all the parking would be, and I remembered that, and actually asked him, isn't that actually stacked? So we did some great things, right? That is a parking structure, but it goes down, right? There's actually a structure underneath. And then I remembered, oh, exactly what you said. The Wegmans was going to be this sea of a roof. And so we do have an opportunity where there's potentially a building of 14 stories, which will be even closer to that property. I would love to see something innovative there. And I do like the way you set that up. If we give a little, right, how about we give a little on both sides?
So I'll ask a question based on this, either to Mr. Wilson or Mr. Berry. What is the structural changes that's required to put on a live roof? Is that a major change? Is that a minor change? Because that's a lot more weight.
Yeah, they'd have to engineer it to make sure that it holds that weight, absolutely, Mayor.
Okay.
but there's nothing constructed yet.
Right.
So
right.
now would be the time.
I'm just trying to figure
Yeah.
out what the ask is.
Right, and what we're seeing in urban areas across the country is are people activating their rooftops, doing gardens. I mean, if they put the 14-story building, or I say 14, it could be 5 stories, we don't know, 4 to 14-story building next to it. I mean, they could actually have that an activated rooftop, and that could be a real amenity for that office building. So there's a lot of ways that this can enhance our community and not be this eyesore that, we approve it now, it's in perpetuity like this. And so I just think this is a real opportunity for us to kind of say, what do we want to be in the future with these rooftops?
Can you go through the heights, by the way? Sorry, just a question. Can you go through the heights on slide, the create option 2 for anchor tenant area? It doesn't have a slide number on mine.
11.
That I can see. It's the one right before additional signage?
Is this the one?
Yeah. Can you go through the building heights for each of the buildings?
Sure. Under both options or just the proposed alternative option 2?
The proposed option.
Sure. We'll work our way backwards. So the smaller configured pod 2, and minimum of 1 story, maximum of 2 story, commercial uses for both floors. Whoops. The reconfigured pod 8, a minimum of 4 stories, a maximum of 12 stories, can basically commercial, hospitality, office, can have residential on the upper floors but not the lower floor. The new proposed pod 35, as mentioned, minimum of 4 stories, maximum of 14 stories. There is a note that allows the potential for the parking, structured parking to be integrated into the building. Again, has the same mix of uses, commercial, hospitality, office, and residential on the upper floors. It's limited to commercial, hospitality, or office on the ground floor. Deck D9, which again can be integrated with pod 35, is proposed. Don't have a minimum or maximum height on the parking deck structures. And then last but not least, the extension to Main Street, the option for an additional retail jewel box, minimum of 1 story, maximum of 2 in height, commercial use.
That's really helpful. Thank you. I'm sorry.
No problem. Ms. Robinson, while I don't disagree with your comments in principle, and I appreciate the vision, I really do, I see this as a significant improvement over what was previously already approved. We're going from basically 2 acres under one roof to 1 acre under one roof, along with a number of new different buildings of different heights and sizes and architectures and the extension of the Main Street and a bunch of other little streets and all this opportunity for activity and just much more visually appealing area versus a ginormous 100,000 square foot big box. So I see this as a significant improvement over what was already previously approved and they could do by right. Again, I don't disagree in principle with what you're saying. Maybe there is a way to activate that rooftop. I don't know. But I also know that I don't want to impose an unrealistic burden on them, given that they're making an improvement over what was already approved. I love a lot of the changes. Appreciate your work on this as always, Rob. I think this is kind of your baby, and you probably have Fenton nightmares at night or something. I don't know. But,
It's a team
but
effort.
you've done an amazing job on this over the years. I just wanted to say that.
Thank you.
I love the different opportunities for the art structures, the monument things. I just think that makes a really unique, cool place. You know, we always talk about creating a sense of place and things that make people want to walk and what's around the corner. Let's just keep going and you know, stay a while. I think that's really cool. I guess my only concern is when it comes to the signage on that parking deck that would be facing Carytown Boulevard. And that I think you said something about they were going to come back to clarify maximum size.
Yep.
So I kind of want to know what the maximum size would be. I, you know, personally don't want to see all of the wonderful things that they're doing in the architecture and the art and the green spaces and everything ruined by some ginormous 100-foot long public sign or something, you know? So I think we need to be really careful there. And then I have one other question as far as some of the medical uses that could now be allowed. Would that be allowed in one of the jewel boxes or no?
As proposed, medical office uses would be allowed anywhere commercial or office uses are permitted, so yes, the
So
answer
the
is
medical use could be in a jewel box?
could be, yes.
Okay, I'd like to learn a little bit more and better understand that, but otherwise, you know, it's, for the most part, I think it's pretty cool. But yeah, just want to know more.
Yeah, okay.
No, I agree with Jennifer. I mean, if we can activate that rooftop, that'd be a wonderful thing, so I'm all for that. But as Mr. France said, that sea of a rooftop is half the size of what it was before, so I really do see this as an improvement. The only thing I wrote down with a little plus next to it was just what Mr. France said. I wrote parking deck signs, what's the size? So that would be nice to know. But otherwise, I've been an enthusiastic supporter of Fenton, I guess, from day one, and there's nothing in this rezoning, although there's a lot of details, there's nothing in here that would diminish my support.
Mr. Smith?
Yeah, I was fortunate to be able to get the same tour, Laurie, you know, and one of the things that jumped out at me, because I'm not good at looking at diagrams and all that kind of stuff, so I'm kind of that visual person. So to see that area that was going to be the big Wegmans and to see that basically halved and then have the opportunity to move the building and then at the same time improve the walkway and improve the I don't know if you call it the people traffic or what, but the flow through there. I said, gee, this is one of those times where we, in my mind, we were able to make the lemonade out of the lemon. I said, boy, you know, at first we all had that shock, I guess you'd call it, and but then when you come back and you see how it's just reconfiguring that road, that network to accommodate that building, it just looks better than this one big ocean out of one big building out there. So, you know, I think your comments are great. I mean, I think these are great ideas and whatever can be incorporated, fine. But in the net of it, I still think, for the most part, these improvements or these conditions are an improvement, making the best of a previous situation. Just my thoughts on it.
Anyone else?
Well, I'll add one other comment. I just want to say that my comments aren't in opposition to your comments.
You're in violent agreement.
I mean,
That's
yes,
kinda how I feel,
it
yeah.
is better, and that rooftop still stinks if it's, naked. So, just saying, we're not in conflict here, we agree. But I do want the staff to help me understand also the ramifications of these allowances that we're doing for signs and other things on other projects in our community. For example, I saw that one sign that had Fenton that was what do you say, the interior is lit up, what do you call that? Internally lit? Is that what you call it?
Backlit.
You backlit, yeah. And to my recollection, I thought we said no to that in Cary. And so I want us to understand, if we say yes to it here, does that mean that we're saying yes to it in other locations? And so I want to understand that better. And some of the other allowances. The artwork, I mean, I know you guys say it's signage because it's their logo put into art. I really love it. I think that logo looks great, and I like it in all those places. But then I was looking at that little tower, and I was thinking, well, what if it was the Belks logo? Would I be as enthusiastic about it? Or, some other corporate logo, would I think it's as nice? And so I just want to make sure that we're not opening up ourselves to lowering our standards across the whole town in pursuit of one project.
It kind of reminds me almost of the monument sign they did. The looks, no. But what they're trying to do here, similar to what they did out in front of Bass Pro Shops on Harrison Avenue.
Scott and I just talked about that.
Okay. Where you take art and signage and all that, and you kind of make it into one. So when it's all done, you don't even know it's signage.
Yeah.
So,
We were just talking about that.
cool.
And Councilmember Robertson, so the way we have Fenton set up is it's its own zoning district. So whatever Fenton does here doesn't affect our sign ordinance for any other part of town in a direct way. And with the design guidebook and the other things that are in place to keep Fenton as a unique spot, we have good reasons for how we're treating Fenton. And so I'm not concerned about the effect on other parts of town with the special allowances that are here, because this is a unique situation.
Okay, so we couldn't have a future applicant come to us and go, you allowed it there, you're denying it here, and
not a
challenge us?
precedent.
No, it could actually
Right.
happen.
not
but
a
I mean, we could be
it's
challenged, but would we
defensible.
lose?
Yeah, no,
Yeah, it's
I'm
not a
I'm
precedent.
confident we're in good shape with
Okay.
this. Yeah.
All right, if you say that, I believe it, Lisa.
One other thing that, and it's kind of hit me, is one of the signs or dimensional monument signs is asking for up to 30 feet high. So that's 6 lorries in flats.
So it's still very small.
Very small. So just trying to, that seems, that's 2 stories. Like, how is it from a height perspective to the rest of what might be around there? Because that seems awfully tall. What does staff think about that in comparison to other types of art/monument signs?
So the placement of these signs is important, and only 2 of the 3 that are proposed could be up to 30 feet. The example that's been given here is 27 feet, but you don't have the scale. Given the depth of the streetscape buffer, given the openness of the entrance at Trinity and Carytown Boulevard, and then the placement of the buildings in the background, you will notice it. However, we think that the scale is such that it will fit in.
Okay.
So, and as a comparison, the minimum height for a 1-story retail building is 22 feet. So the structures along Carytown Boulevard, which could be 1 story, will still be close to this in height, although they'll be clustered together and they'll be further down the road. This will sit at the corner, close to the entrance, landscaping, hardscape. So we think that proportionally it will fit in the open space around it.
The artwork that was just installed at, was it Cary Parkway in Evans? How tall is that? I hate to hit you off the top of your
I
head.
don't have the height, but we can get that for you.
It's 15.
I think this might be similar in scale to the artwork in front of Building C on the SAS campus. Y'all went there we went there for.
I don't even
many
remember
retreat.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's probably the same scale.
That was cool.
30 feet.
That's cool. Yeah, it looks good.
It just
I think
gives
this
me
is gonna look
pause
great.
because it's
Yeah.
kind of the biggest sign I can think of. I want to make sure that it's right in scale. I mean, the fact that it's close to.
art.
Right, it's a sign.
It's an arty sign.
It's an arty sign. Especially since it's near the thoroughfare that also, and makes sense, but I was curious as to your thoughts on that. Thank you.
Any other thoughts, comments? This will go to our Planning and Zoning Board for their review and recommendation, and we'll see it soon.
Soon. Yep.
Yeah, sooner than later.
Yep.
And I just want to add, I really appreciate y'all's work on this. I would have actually expected 20 different amendments, rezonings, changes to Fenton by now, and to just have as few as we've had. You guys have done amazing work, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move into discussion items. Our first discussion item is the purchase of fire truck idle reduction technology. Assistant Town Manager Dana Widmar will present the item to council, and we may take action.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. And thank you again for all your leadership on the many fun and exciting things that we do with our environmental initiatives. I really enjoy being able to come here and talk with you about them. So I'm pleased to bring forward this recommendation for retrofitting 9 fire vehicles with idle reduction technology. But before I get into some of the key performance measurements and the many benefits, Chief David Rains has joined me here today to provide a brief overview of how the fire department arrived at this recommendation. And so join me in welcoming Chief Rains. He's been with our organization for 23 years, and this is his first time at council. So.
Wow. Lucky you.
Welcome.
Wow.
Thank you. And thank you for the opportunity to be able to come to you tonight to provide a little insight on how we got to this point. Following council's guidance regarding environmental issues, fire department staff has sought ways to be more environmentally friendly. Idle reduction technology, or IRT, was introduced by Pierce Manufacturing in 2021. And Pierce is the manufacturer of all of our fire engines, ladder trucks, and rescue trucks we run and carry. And this technology allows fire trucks to run on lithium-ion batteries instead of the diesel engines when we're idling on fire calls. And the majority of our time, we're not running fire pumps. We don't have ladder trucks in the air. We're idling on EMS calls, motor vehicle access, those types of calls. And so that's where the benefit here comes in. This technology has no negative impact on the fire department's ability to function on emergency calls. I've made contact with Madison, Wisconsin Fire Department and with Rochester, Minnesota Fire Department, who both are using idle reduction technology, and they've seen great benefits of that. Rochester is reporting a 25 to 30% reduction in fuel cost with the idle reduction technology that's on their fleet, in addition to all the other savings as far as services and those types of things. This technology is a bridge to electric fire truck. That's what we're shooting for. Currently, Pierce Manufacturing has a pilot program with Madison, Wisconsin, where they have an electric fire truck in service and testing it out, with the ultimate goal of having a full production model within 2 years. And at that time, we would evaluate electric fire trucks and our capacity to utilize them in future purchases. So with that, I can say I'm pleased to be a part of this important work, and happy to make this recommendation. So I'll turn it back over to Dana.
Thank you. Sure. Okay, some of the fun stuff you've asked to hear a little bit about. First of all, the IRT has many benefits, including reduced fuel usage. So Chief Rains covered many of these things, and that directly results in decreased emissions. So the benefits also include decreased maintenance and repair costs due to the less wear and tear on the engine over the life of the vehicle, and this also then therefore extends the life of the vehicle or the engine. Combined, all of these factors result in reduced overall operating costs. And I know you like to get into some of these details, so to give you a sense of magnitude, reduced fuel consumption is estimated at 1.5 to 2.5 gallons of diesel fuel per hour per vehicle per hour. And so, so essentially, each time it switches to the IRT technology, we'll be able to save that amount of diesel fuel. The vehicles operate over 12,000 hours annually, with a very good portion of that time in the idle position. So this request includes 9 total vehicles, that's both engine and ladder trucks, which were purchased in recent years, I think about the last 5 years. And their total estimated lifespan is estimated at 20 years. So how does this translate into emissions reduction? Each vehicle has an estimated 8.23 metric tons of emissions per vehicle reduction, and that's annual. Since there are 9 retrofitted vehicles, we will have emissions reduction equivalent to nearly 2 passenger vehicles per year, and that's per vehicle, or the emissions related to energy consumption from one home, and or the equivalent of approximately 10 acres of forest preserved, and that's annually per vehicle.
Cool.
So the benefits go even further, as industry experts estimate that every hour of idling causes 33 miles of wear and tear on the engine of a vehicle. Since this technology replaces engine use with battery use, the engine life is extended and operational costs reduce. Noise levels are also significantly reduced during idling, which results in improved operator well-being. Ultimately, the return on investment is estimated at 4 to 8 years, depending on the particular vehicle that we install this on. So, based on all this, I am happy to recommend $324,000 of already appropriated general fund dollars for the idle reduction technology retrofits of 9 fire vehicles. And Chief Raines and I are available to answer any questions you may have.
Good report. I might have missed it, and you might have said it, but what is the typical life of a vehicle?
20 years.
20 years.
20 years, and we're extending that
Yes.
with this technology.
Yes, we believe it'll go longer, and we'll be measuring all that as we get into it.
And what is the life of the idle reduction batteries? Are they batteries?
They are kind of like your dry cell batteries in your passenger vehicles, but they're lithium ion. So Pierce Manufacturing is looking at a 10 to 15-year life cycle. And what you see at the 10-year mark is that it doesn't just go dead, is that you lose capacity. So at the 10-year mark, it only has 80% of the reserve capacity versus a brand new one at 100%. And so then we just have to evaluate, at the 80% mark, is it worth replacing, or is it worth running it even longer to get our investment out of it?
Okay, thank you. You're the automotive expert. Any questions?
No, I totally understand it.
Yeah.
And I totally get it. And honestly, by the time these batteries wear out to that 80%, there's probably going to be some new improved type setup that we would.
Yes, sir.
Technology is rapidly evolving, especially in battery technology. It's fascinating.
Yes, sir. Conference I was in this past year, it did talk about battery capacity, and that as the technology advances, the batteries last longer and the cost of the batteries come down. So, 5-10 years down the road, we're looking at a whole different ballgame.
Yeah, and probably by then, there's going to be a heck of a lot more companies besides Pierce Manufacturing doing this. So it's going to be a lot of competition that's also going to drive down costs.
I think all fire truck manufacturers are racing to this, even with the electric fire truck. Everybody's trying to get the first electric fire truck out there.
Oh, yeah. So, no, I think it's pretty cool. I think the reduction in the wear and tear in the diesel engines is going to be huge. And quite frankly, I mean, I love it when you come to my neighborhood. But, then when you're there, you're often there for an hour or more. And so, everybody runs to the window, what's happening? What's happening? Okay, cool. After about 10 minutes, you're like, well, I'm ready for that truck to go away. It's loud, But so this will even it's just better all around.
And I think if you look at not knowing what the fuel situation is, I know if it continues to go up and doesn't come down, the return on investment's even sooner, because diesel $5 a gallon now is.
Yeah, that was the first thing I was doing is, all right, 5 times, 10,000 hours per vehicle, just over the course of 2 years, you make that up, just over a course of a few years for those vehicles. So not even including all the additional benefits, right? Just in what we spend on gas, right? So not that the manager's going to reduce that out of your budget because you're not using gas, but I think it's great. I'm so proud of staff for continuing to find new and exciting ways to not just help the environment, but to do what's right for everybody. It's fantastic. You guys are really innovative.
Other
I just want
comments?
additional information. So the LRT technology will be used for 9 fire trucks. Is that the goal, to introduce this technology for all fire trucks in the town? Yeah.
And here's what we did. We looked at life cycle replacement and where we're at to be able to get the return on the investment. So trucks that are older in our fleet that we're going to be replacing sooner than later, it doesn't make sense to do that. And also, we had to look at the current technologies on the trucks. They had to have like LED lighting, scene lighting, and emergency lighting, because if they had AC lighting and older technology and lighting, the batteries wouldn't support it. They actually run off a generator. So we had to look at a lot of different aspects of the apparatus, and the 9 that we identified were the ones that this is the IRT would be able to fully support.
Yeah.
And to get a return on the investment.
Yeah, thank you for introducing this technology. And remember, Jennifer mentioned that we probably want to introduce, maybe create like a section of innovation, like on the Cary's website. But this could be
Yeah,
one of
definitely.
these items that the innovative like solutions, technology that we use, we want to advertise it. Like,
Yeah,
we are
let
using
people
this.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's really amazing, the 10 acres per vehicle. I mean, the equivalent, I mean, that's really astounding, especially when you think about how expensive it is to acquire acreage. I mean, we're doing a lot for open space acquisition, but nonetheless, that's like $22 million for 90 acres. I mean, that's huge. So, yeah, it's really fascinating to me, and I'm impressed by the fact that you guys are bringing this to us. So thank you.
Just a curiosity question, nothing to do with this, kind of, sort of. How soon before we start looking at purchasing an electric fire truck?
Well, to be honest with you, we have reached out to Pierce Manufacturer to ask to be part of their pilot program.
Okay.
Right now, the Madison, Wisconsin's had a truck for about five months, and because of their proximity to Apple, Wisconsin, where Pierce is headquartered, they selected them because they're a busier department. And but I'll say we're on their radar for being able to pilot a truck if that opportunity comes available before they go into full manufacture.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Are we ready for a motion?
Make
Yes.
a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve 324,000, oh, sorry. were
Go
you-
ahead, please. Mr. Smith
Already
is gonna second.
appropriated general fund dollars for the idle reduction technology retrofits of 9 fire apparatus.
Mr. Smith?
I'll second that.
All right. Discussion, further discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
love no-brainer decisions. Thanks. Our second discussion item is the bid award and transfer of funds for Western Cary Neighborhood Parks construction. Capital Planning and Facilities Director Alex Jones will present the item, and council may take action. Ms. Jones.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council. Good to see you. Here to talk about bid award for construction of 2 eagerly awaited neighborhood parks in Western Cary. As you will remember, these parks are located off McCrimmon Parkway and Carpenter Fire Station Road. They were identified in the Parks Master Plan in 2017. Council, you approved the park plans in 2019, and after the success of the bond referendum, the projects were funded and went to full design. Designing these parks together has allowed for inclusion of complementary amenities for residents of all ages. There is a lot of great stuff in these parks. For the park on Carpenter Fire Station Road, this includes 2 lighted baseball fields, a multi-purpose court, a dog park, a playground, an adult fitness area, a skate area, a misting sculpture, Wi-Fi, and a greenway extension. The multi-purpose court I mentioned will have both basketball and futsal goals. Futsal is a smaller version of soccer that is growing in popularity, and this will be Cary's first permanent futsal court. The Greenway extension will close a gap on the Panther Creek Greenway, creating a continuous trail from the American Tobacco Trail to the YMCA near NC Highway 55. At the park on McCrimmon Parkway, the design emphasizes natural areas, stream and varied topography alongside recreational amenities. This includes 6 lighted tennis courts, 6 lighted pickleball courts, a community garden, Wi-Fi, a hammock sculpture, a nature trail, and a playground with a natural play area. Both parks incorporate interactive public art. The hammock structure at the McCrimmon location is not only going to be a great place for people to lounge, but is also a sunflower art sculpture. The Carpenter Fire Station Road location will have a misting sculpture that will provide relief in our hot summers and be a great backdrop for photos. So, getting this done. At the February bid opening, Fred Smith Company was the lowest responsible bidder with a bid of $15,240,000. Inclusive of those construction costs, direct equipment and material purchases by Cary, consultant services to oversee construction, and a 10% contingency, the total project cost for both parks is sitting at $21,630,000. The parks are funded by the Shaping Cary's Tomorrow bonds and have existing funding of $19 million. As I've talked to you about before, because we continue to see rising construction costs, the project will need additional money to proceed. The good news is that we bid the projects as a single construction project with the goal of obtaining better pricing, and we did see bids come in less expensive than our designers anticipated. We recommend an additional funding amount of $2.7 million. So in conclusion, staff recommends that council appropriate $2.7 million of Recreation Payment in Lieu West fund balance to the projects and award the construction contract to Fred Smith Company. Thank you, and I'm available for your questions.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. Questions or comments?
Just to be clear, it's while we're approving 21 point whatever, the parks could still come in around 19, right?
That's correct. We do not anticipate spending the full amount of the funding request.
Did we work with citizens on the list of, I know we had multiple open houses. Did community greenhouses or any of that come up? Because I know that those have also come as, by a lot of people saying they can't get a community garden plot.
I can go back and look at the public comment process, but we did have a series of public engagement at neighborhood meetings where we developed the master planning for those two parks.
That was a while ago.
Is that where the futsal came up? Where did that come up?
Yes.
It did? Okay.
Yes. I'll go back into that and get some more information to you.
Great.
Alex, was that-
PRCR board was also very involved in both of these parks, especially in regards to the pickleball. They really noticed recognized the need and were pretty adamant about additional pickleball courts along with the tennis courts.
I do remember the request for additional pickleball court vividly.
Yeah, but it was 2019 when we did this, like
That's
the open
right.
houses, right? So I mean, it's been a while. But I mean, I mean, we even had teenagers weigh in, and that's where we got the idea for the hammocks, right?
That's right. Yes.
I think my recollection is that the number one amenity that teenagers were asking for was picturesque places to take selfies.
Chill out with Wi-Fi.
Wasn't that, yeah.
Instagrammable?
And Wi-Fi, wasn't that what it was?
Instagrammable, yes. Hence
Yeah.
the misting sculpture, the sunflower sculpture, places to hang out,
Yeah.
spend time.
Yeah,
with
I think that's
Wi-Fi.
fantastic
that's
that
good.
we engaged them in the design of this, so.
Other questions or comments, or are we ready for a motion?
Yeah. Make a motion to appropriate funds of $21.7 million for the projects and award the construction contract.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Our last discussion item was removed during the adoption of the agenda, and Mr. Smith is asked to be recognized at this time to talk about Arbor Day.
Thank you. March definitely is coming in like a lion, so all of our events that are scheduled this Saturday at Bond Park, which includes the mayor giving the proclamation, and concurrent with that, we're having our semi-annual tree giveaway where we have 600 trees that are going to be handed out to those that have pre-registered. All that's being moved to Sunday. Nothing's changed, we just moved it a day. The weather just does not look like it wants to cooperate on Saturday. So I wanted to remind people that it is a big day for us. It's a day when we celebrate a lot of what we're doing in the environment. It's a day where we put our trees number one, and you can't go wrong with more trees. So I just wanted to remind everybody about that. And in addition, let's not forget on the 17th, we have St. Patrick's Day, and let's make sure that you all have yourselves a toast, because after all, St. Patrick, what do you relate to? Green, and that's what it's all about. So I just wanted to remind all of those two big events.
All
Thank
right,
you.
thank you, Mr. Smith. That concludes our business for the evening. There are no other items, so I declare this meeting adjourned.
That's a quick meeting.